The stars looked different from the observation deck of the Earthship Dauntless. Commander Ethan Moore stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the unfamiliar patterns of light as the ship approached Centuria, the capital world of the Galactic Council. His reflection in the viewport showed a man in his early 40s with short brown hair and tired eyes that had seen too much in the past few months. "Commander, we're receiving the approach instructions from Centurion Control," said Communications Officer Kathy Wells from her station behind him. Moore nodded without turning around. "Follow their flight path exactly. We can't afford any mistakes." Today, 6 months ago, humanity had been alone in the universe as far as they knew. The accidental discovery of faster-than-light travel had changed everything. Earthships had begun exploring nearby star systems, setting up research stations and small colonies. No one expected to find that those systems were already claimed by another civilization. The Aurelians, with their blue-scaled skin and 4 eyes, had sent a fleet to stop what they called human invasion. The battle that followed surprised everyone. Human ships, though less advanced, proved remarkably adaptable. Moore had commanded the defense using tactics no alien had seen before. Instead of the easy victory the Aurelians expected, they found themselves in a difficult fight against the newcomers. That unexpected resistance had caught the attention of the Galactic Council, a governing body of over 200 advanced species. They had stepped in to stop the fighting and called for diplomatic talks. Now Moore found himself heading toward a meeting that would decide the fate of all humanity. "Are you ready for this?" asked Olivia Grant, Earth's chief diplomatic officer, as she joined him at the viewport. She was tall and carried herself with confidence, her dark skin contrasting with her white diplomatic uniform. "Not really," Moore admitted. "I'm a soldier, not a politician." "That's exactly why you're here," said Grant. "They respect strength. You showed them humans aren't easy targets." Moore turned to face the viewport again. The planet Centuria was now visible, a swirling blue-green world with 3 moons and rings that shimmered like gold dust. Around it, thousands of ships moved in perfect order, each following invisible paths through space. "Look at that," he said quietly. "Some of those civilizations have been traveling among the stars since before humans invented the wheel." "Don't let it intimidate you," Grant replied. "We have just as much right to be here as they do." As the Dauntless approached the massive space station that housed the council chambers, Moore felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. 7 billion humans back on Earth were counting on him, even if most of them didn't know this. Meeting was happening. The docking procedure was smooth and efficient. When the airlock opened, Moore and Grant led a small team of human representatives into the station. They were met by tall, thin beings with silver skin and large oval heads. "Welcome to the Galactic Council Station," said one of the beings in perfect English. "I am Guide Zareth. I will escort you to your quarters and brief you on protocol." Moore nodded. "Thank you. We appreciate your hospitality." As they followed Zareth through wide corridors, Moore tried not to stare at the various aliens they passed. Some looked almost human, while others seemed impossible. Beings made of light, creatures floating in personal atmosphere bubbles, and things he couldn't even describe. This station houses the permanent representatives of all council species, as well as diplomatic guests like yourselves, Zareth explained. The main council chamber can accommodate all 217 member species, though full sessions are rare. "How many of those species will be at our hearing?" Grant asked. "All founding members will attend, as is required when meeting a new spacefaring civilization. Others may join if they wish. Your case has generated unusual interest." Moore frowned. "Interest? Why?" Zareth hesitated before answering. "Your conflict with the Aurelians has been discussed. Many find human military tactics interesting. It is not common for a new species to hold their own against a council founder." Their quarters were simple but comfortable, designed to approximate Earth conditions as closely as possible. After Zareth left, promising to return in 3 hours for the hearing, Moore sat heavily on a couch that adjusted to his body. "We're in over our heads," he said. Grant was checking the rooms for listening devices, standard procedure even when meeting supposedly friendly aliens. Maybe, but we don't have a choice. Either we convince them to accept humanity as equals, or Earth becomes a protectorate at best, a target at worst. The Aurelians wanted our star systems, Moore said. What if the Council sides with them? Then we fight, Grant said simply. But let's try talking first. 3 hours later, Zareth led them through a series of security checks before they entered the council chamber. The room was enormous, a perfect circle with rising tiers of seats surrounding a central speaking platform. Each section was designed to accommodate different physiologies: water tanks for aquatic species, low-gravity areas for others, and environmental bubbles for those with exotic atmospheric needs. The human delegation was directed to a small, waiting area while the session began. From their position, they could see and hear everything but could not approach the central platform. High Lord Vask of the Aurelians spoke first, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence as his translator converted, his clicking speech to English for the human benefit. Honorable council members, Vask began, his voice echoing through the chamber. We face an unprecedented situation. Humans have developed faster-than-light travel without the usual guidance period. They expanded aggressively into space, claimed by my people for millennia. Moore tensed, wanting to object, but Grant placed a warning hand on his arm. When we attempted to contain their expansion, Vask continued, they responded with military force. Their technology is primitive but applied in unpredictable ways. Their ships sacrifice safety for effectiveness. Their tactics show a disregard for established conventions of space combat. Images appeared in the air above the central platform. Recordings of the battle, showing Earthships performing maneuvers that made Moore proud but clearly disturbed the council members. Humans are dangerous, Vask declared. They are too unpredictable, too quick to violence, too innovative without proper restraint. For their own protection and the safety of the galactic community, Earth should be placed under protective observation for a standard century. This will allow them to learn our ways before joining galactic society. Moore couldn't stay silent any longer. He stood and stepped forward. That's not true. We were defending ourselves. The chamber went silent. Then a cacophony of voices erupted, some speaking in alarm, others in curiosity. A tall being with golden skin and 6 arms raised all its limbs, and silence returned. The human speaks out of turn, the being said. They have not been recognized by the council. Zareth hurried to Moore's side. Commander, please return to your position. New species are not permitted to address the council directly until formally recognized. This is protocol. Protocol? Moore said loudly enough for many to hear. Your protocol seems designed to let others speak for us, not let us speak for ourselves. Grant pulled him back as security beings moved closer. Not now, she whispered urgently. We need to learn the rules before we can change them. As they returned to their waiting area, Moore noticed a slender figure watching him from one of the mid-level tiers. The being had pale skin that seemed to shimmer with inner light and large, entirely silver eyes. When their gazes met, the alien gave a slight nod, almost of approval. After the session ended with no opportunity for the humans to speak, the same alien approached them in the corridor outside. I am Leora of the Aldari, she said in a musical voice. What you did in there was brave, if unwise. It felt necessary, Moore replied. Is it normal for species to be discussed but not allowed to defend themselves? Leora looked around before answering quietly. The council was not always this way. Over thousands of years, the founding species have changed the rules to maintain their power. What you witnessed today was not justice, Commander Moore. It was politics. Then how do we fight this? Grant asked. With great care, Leora answered. The system is corrupt, but not everyone supports it. Some of us have waited a long time for a species brave enough to challenge the status quo. She pressed a small crystal into Moore's hand. Study this. It contains information not easily found in public records. We will speak again. As Leora walked away, Moore looked down at the crystal glowing softly in his palm. I think we just made our first ally, he said. Grant nodded. and our first enemy in High Lord Vask. The question is, which one is more powerful? Moore closed his fingers around the crystal. Let's find out. Back on the human diplomatic vessel, dauntless, Commander Ethan Moore turned the crystal from Leora over in his hands. The small object glowed with a soft blue light that pulsed gently like a heartbeat. Any idea how to use this thing? He asked. Olivia Grant, who sat across from him in the ship's secure meeting room. Grant shook her head. The Aldari technology is beyond our understanding. Their species has been part of the Council for over 5,000 years. Moore placed the crystal on the table between them. Well, we need to figure it out fast. The Council reconvenes tomorrow, and we still don't know what rights we have, if any. Their conversation was interrupted when Captain Frank Reynolds entered the room. His face was grim. We just received the official Council proposal, Reynolds said, handing a data tablet to Grant. It's not good. Grant read quickly, her expression darkening with each line. They're giving us an ultimatum. Either Earth accepts protected status under Aurelian supervision for the next 100 years, or we face complete isolation from all Council worlds. And if we refuse both options? Moore asked. Then we're considered a rogue civilization, Reynolds replied. That would give the Aurelians legal justification for military action against us. Moore stood up and paced the room. So our choices are surrender, isolation, or war. That's no choice at all. That crystal might be our only hope, Grant said, pointing to the gift from Leora. We need to access whatever information is inside. Moore picked up the crystal again, studying it carefully. As his frustration grew, the crystal's light pulsed faster, almost in sync with his heartbeat. Suddenly, a beam of light shot out from the crystal, projecting holographic text and images in the air. It responds to emotion, Moore said with surprise. To human emotion. The three humans gathered around the floating text, which thankfully was translated into English. The information revealed an ancient council protocol that had been buried under thousands of years of legal amendments and revisions. Grant read aloud, "The Challenger's Right, an original founding principle of the Galactic Council that allows any new species to challenge Council decisions through a series of trials designed to prove their worthiness for full membership." Why didn't the Council tell us about this option? Reynolds asked. Because no species has successfully completed these trials in over 10,000 years. Grant continued reading. Most new civilizations aren't even informed this option exists. Moore studied the details of the protocol. These trials sound impossible. Tests of intelligence, adaptability, diplomatic skill, and something called species moral fiber? Whatever that means. Impossible or not, it's our only alternative to accepting the Council's terms, Grant said. And look at this note from Leora. Your species possesses qualities that the Founders fear. That is why they wish to control you. These very qualities may help you succeed where others have failed. Moore looked up from the projection. Reynolds, how long until the Council session tomorrow? 14 hours, Commander. Then we have 14 hours to prepare. We're going to invoke this Challenger's Right. The next morning, the human delegation returned to the Council chambers with a new determination. As before, High Lord Vask of the Aurelians dominated the proceedings, pushing for a quick vote on the proposal to restrict human expansion. The terms are more than fair, Vask insisted, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. Humans will benefit from a century of guidance before joining galactic society as full members. From the center of the chamber, the 6-armed moderator nodded. If there are no further statements, we shall proceed to... I invoke the Challenger's Right, Moore called out clearly. The chamber fell silent. Thousands of alien faces turned toward the human delegation. The moderator froze in mid-sentence, all 6 arms suspended in the air. What did you say, human? The moderator asked after a long pause. Moore stepped forward. By the original founding charter of the Galactic Council, I invoke the Challenger's Right on behalf of humanity. We reject the terms offered and choose to prove our worthiness through the ancient trials. Whispers and clicks and electronic buzzes, filled the chamber as the council species communicated with each other. High Lord Vask's scales darkened with what Moore assumed was anger. "This is highly irregular," the moderator said. "The challenger's right has not been invoked in millennia." "But it remains valid law," a new voice rang out. Leora of the Aldari stood from her position in the middle tiers, "unless the council wishes to deny its own founding principles." Other voices joined in support, representatives from various mid-tier council species who, Moore realized, had their own reasons to challenge the dominance of the founding members. The moderator conferred with several ancient-looking beings in the highest tier before speaking again. "The council acknowledges the human invocation of the challenger's right. The trials will begin tomorrow at first light." As the session ended, Vask approached Moore with barely contained fury. The Aurelian towered over him, scales now almost black with emotion. "You have made a grave mistake, human," Vask hissed. "No species has completed the trials in recorded history. Your failure will only prove what we already know, that humans are not ready. Then you have nothing to worry about," Moore replied calmly. After Vask stormed away, Leora joined them. "You have created quite a disturbance in the council, Commander. Many species are watching with great interest. Will you help us prepare for these trials?" Grant asked. Leora nodded. "As much as I can without breaking council law. The first trial begins tomorrow. The test of mind. You will face a Volturi mind master." Moore frowned. "What exactly does that mean?" "The Volturi can project thoughts and create mental puzzles that few species can solve," Leora explained. "They are formidable opponents." Back in their quarters, Moore and Grant prepared as best they could with the limited information Leora had provided. The night was long, and sleep did not come easily to either of them. The first trial took place in a small chamber with only a few observers. Moore sat across from an alien with pale skin stretched tight over a large skull. The Volturi had no visible eyes, just smooth skin where eyes should be. "The test is simple," the trial overseer explained. "The Mind Master will present you with a mental puzzle. You must solve it or find a way through it." Moore nodded, not sure what to expect. As the trial began, he suddenly felt a presence in his mind, alien and cold, sifting through his thoughts like fingers through sand. Then came the puzzle, a mental maze so complex that Moore could barely comprehend its structure. Each path he tried led to dead ends or impossible loops. The Volturi was testing not just his intelligence but his very way of thinking. After an hour of frustration, Moore realized something important. The rules of the maze kept changing. What worked one moment failed the next. The Volturi was adapting, the puzzle to counter each of Moore's approaches. That's when he had an idea. Instead of trying to solve the ever-changing maze, Moore began to focus on the Volturi itself. He recalled everything he knew about communication, about how understanding the speaker was often the key to understanding the message. He studied the subtle changes in the maze each time he made progress, looking for patterns in how the Volturi thought. Then, instead of trying to reach the center of the maze, Moore began creating his own mental patterns, rhythms of thought that were uniquely human. The Volturi, accustomed to opponents who played by the established rules, seemed confused by Moore's approach. The alien tried to regain control of the mental encounter, but Moore kept changing his thinking patterns in unpredictable ways. It wasn't exactly solving the puzzle. It was changing the nature of the interaction itself. After another hour, the Volturi suddenly withdrew from Moore's mind. The alien's featureless face was impossible to read, but its voice sounded almost surprised. "Interesting," the Volturi said. "Not a solution I anticipated." The trial overseer looked confused. "Has the human failed the test?" "No," the Volturi replied after a pause. "The human has reframed the challenge in a way I have not encountered before. Different but effective. The trial is complete." As Moore left the chamber on shaky legs, still recovering from the mental ordeal, he found Grant waiting for him. "Did you solve it?" she asked anxiously. Moore shook his head. Not exactly. I just changed how I approached it. Showed them something they hadn't seen before. Leora appeared beside them, her silver eyes wide with surprise. You have accomplished something remarkable, Commander. No new species has passed the first trial in over 3,000 years. What happens now? Moore asked. Now the Council truly begins to take notice, Leora said, and some members will not be pleased. Be careful, Commander. You have made powerful enemies today. As they walked back to their quarters, Moore noticed other aliens watching him with new interest. Some seemed curious, others concerned. One thing was clear. Humanity was no longer being ignored. One trial down, Grant said quietly. How many? More to go? 3, Moore replied. And something tells me they'll only get harder from here. News of Commander Ethan Moore's success in the first trial spread quickly through the Galactic Council station. As he and Olivia Grant walked through the main concourse the next morning, they noticed alien representatives watching them with new interest. Some nodded respectfully, while others turned away with what seemed like disapproval. You've created quite a stir, Leora said, joining them as they headed toward the dining area. The Council hasn't seen a successful first trial challenge in many generations. What exactly happens now? Moore asked. The second trial will test your diplomatic abilities, Leora explained. The third will place you in a simulation designed to be unwinnable. And the final trial? She hesitated. What about the final trial? Grant pressed. It examines your species' core values, Leora said. The Zitheri will look into your moral fiber, your principles. They see beyond words to the truth of who you are. Moore frowned. That sounds difficult to prepare for. It is impossible to prepare for, Leora agreed. The Zitheri see the truth, whatever it may be. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent message from Earth. In the secure communications room of the Dauntless, Admiral Patricia Reyes appeared on the screen, her expression serious. Commander, we've received reports that Aurelian ships are moving closer to our colony on Alpha Centauri, Reyes said. They claim it's just routine patrol, but our intelligence suggests otherwise. They're putting pressure on us, Grant said, trying to force us to withdraw the challenge. Moore nodded. Admiral, keep our fleet on alert, but don't provoke a confrontation. We need time to complete these trials. Understood, Reyes replied. But there's something else you should know. Several other species have contacted Earth directly, bypassing the Council protocols. They're offering support, even technology sharing. It seems you've made some friends out there. After the communication ended, Moore turned to Grant. Looks like the Council isn't as unified as they want us to believe. We should use that to our advantage, Grant said, especially for the second trial. The second trial took place in a large, circular chamber designed to simulate a diplomatic conference. Moore and Grant entered to find representatives from 6 different Council species already seated at a round table. The trial overseer, a tall being with crystalline skin, explained, The challenge. You must negotiate an agreement that satisfies all parties. Each representative has been given conflicting needs and goals. You have 3 hours. As the trial began, Moore quickly realized this was no ordinary negotiation. The species present had been deliberately chosen for their historically opposed interests. 2 were from water worlds with completely different environmental needs. Another pair represented technological rivals who had nearly gone to war a century ago. The final 2 species couldn't even communicate directly due to cultural taboos. This is impossible, Grant whispered after an hour of frustrating talks. They've been given instructions to reject any compromise. Moore looked around the table, studying each alien carefully. Then let's stop trying to make them agree with each other, he said quietly. Let's make them agree with us instead. Changing tactics, Moore and Grant began asking each species about their history, their greatest achievements, and their vision for the future. Instead of focusing on the immediate conflicts, they discussed long-term goals and values. Your species pioneered the water filtration technology that saved the Grendu homeworld, Moore said to one representative. And your people, he addressed, another, developed the energy shields that now protect half the worlds in the Council. Grant followed his lead. Each of you has contributed something vital to galactic civilization. Imagine what you could accomplish by combining your knowledge rather than competing. Slowly, the atmosphere in the room changed. The aliens began talking to each other instead of just to the humans. Moore and Grant carefully guided the conversation toward areas of potential collaboration, identifying projects that could benefit all parties. By the end of the 3 hours, they hadn't solved all the conflicts, but they had established the framework for ongoing cooperation. More importantly, they had shown how humans could serve as bridges between divided species. The trial overseer seemed surprised as he reviewed the results. "Unconventional, but effective," he announced. "The second trial is complete." As they left the chamber, Grant smiled. 2 down, 2 to go. "Don't celebrate yet," Moore cautioned. "I've heard the third trial is the hardest." Back on Earth, Admiral Reyes was busy with her own diplomatic efforts. Following Moore's success, 17 different alien delegations had arrived requesting meetings. Some offered technical assistance, others military alliance, and a few simply wanted to establish trade. "They're betting on human success," Reyes told her staff. "They think we might actually change the balance of power in the Council." In her private office, Reyes studied the schematics sent by one of the friendlier species, plans for advanced shield technology that would help protect Earth's colonies. She was about to approve the implementation when her aide rushed in. "Admiral, we've detected unusual activity near Jupiter. The Aurelians appear to be scanning our outer planets using technology we've never seen before." Reyes frowned. "Send a message to Commander Moore. He needs to know they're getting desperate." On the Council station, Moore received the message, just hours before the third trial was set to begin. "The Aurelians are escalating," he told Grant. "We're running out of time." "Then we need to make sure this trial goes perfectly," she replied. The third trial took place in what the aliens called a full immersion chamber, a room that created realistic simulations indistinguishable from reality. Moore entered alone. As the rules specified, only one representative could participate. The simulation placed him in command of a space station at a critical junction between 5 different territories. A diplomatic crisis was unfolding, with refugees fleeing a stellar catastrophe and seeking asylum. Each territory had different laws about accepting refugees, and tensions were rising quickly. As Moore worked through the scenario, he realized this was the unwinnable situation Leora had warned him about. No matter what choice he made, conflict seemed inevitable. If he accepted the refugees, at least 2 territories would cut off relations with the station. If he turned the refugees away, a humanitarian disaster would unfold. After hours of frustrating negotiations within the simulation, Moore finally understood. The test wasn't about finding the perfect solution. It was about showing how humans handle no-win scenarios. Instead of choosing between the established options, Moore created a new one. He proposed designating the refugees as galactic citizens under a temporary protection framework, using an obscure clause in Council law that had never been applied this way before. Then he organized a shared responsibility system where each territory contributed different resources according to their abilities, rather than taking in refugees directly. When the simulation finally ended, Moore emerged to find a larger audience waiting than before. Word of his previous successes had drawn more council members to observe the trials. The trial overseer conferred with several senior council members before making the announcement. The human solution was unexpected. The simulation was designed with no successful outcome, yet you created a path no previous challenger has found. The third trial is complete. As murmurs spread through the watching crowd, High Lord Vask pushed forward. "This is unacceptable," the Aurelian protested. The human clearly had inside information about the simulation parameters. "Are you accusing the Council of corruption, High Lord?" asked the moderator, all 6 arms moving in a pattern that suggested offense. Vask's scales darkened. "No, but the trials must be fair. Humans are using unorthodox methods that bypass the true purpose of the tests." "Actually," said a new voice, "adapting to unexpected challenges is precisely the purpose of the trials." The crowd parted to reveal one of the most ancient council members, a being from a species so old that few remembered their original name. They were simply called the Elders. The trials were never meant to be solved in predetermined ways, the Elder continued. They were designed to reveal the true nature of each species that faces them. Vask backed down immediately, bowing low to the Elder. But as the crowd dispersed, the Aurelian shot a look of pure hatred at Moore. Leora found Moore afterward, her silver eyes wide with excitement. You've done something remarkable, Commander. 3 trials completed successfully. Only the final challenge remains, and it's the most important, Grant added, joining them. The Zitheri will examine our core values tomorrow. Yes, Leora said solemnly. And meanwhile, something else is happening. The Council is dividing into factions. The younger species see you as champions of change, while the founding civilizations fear what your success might mean for their power. Moore looked out at the stars visible through a nearby viewport. Whatever happens tomorrow, the Council will never be the same. That night, as Moore tried to rest before the final trial, he received an urgent message from Admiral Reyes. The Aurelians had withdrawn all diplomatic personnel from Earth and moved their fleet into offensive positions. It seems we're out of time, Moore said grimly. Tomorrow we either change the Council forever or we prepare for war. The day of the final trial arrived with tension hanging in the air like a storm about to break. Commander Ethan Moore walked toward the Council chambers, knowing that more than just the trials was at stake now. Reports from Earth confirmed that the Aurelian fleet had taken up aggressive positions near human colonies. War seemed only hours away. Are you ready? Olivia Grant asked as they approached the grand entrance to the chambers. Moore nodded. As ready as I can be for a test of our species' moral character. The chamber was fuller than ever before. Representatives from nearly all Council species had gathered to witness the final trial. The upper tiers, where the founding species sat, were noticeably tense. The middle and lower tiers buzzed with excited conversation. The moderator raised all 6 arms for silence. The human representative will now face the final trial. The Zitheri will examine the species' core values and principles. From a side entrance, 3 beings glided into the chamber. The Zitheri looked almost like glass sculptures, transparent bodies with internal lights that pulsed in complex patterns. They moved to the center of the chamber where Moore waited. See beyond words, one of the Zitheri said in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. We see the truth of what you are. Moore felt a strange sensation, as if someone was looking not at him but through him into his very essence. The Zitheri weren't reading his mind exactly. They were reading his humanity. Remain calm, Leora had advised him earlier. The Zitheri do not judge based on perfection. Every species has flaws. They look for the balance of qualities, the core principles that guide your civilization. For what seemed like hours but was probably only minutes, the Zitheri remained silent, their internal lights pulsing more rapidly. The chamber was completely still, every alien watching intently. Finally, the central Zitheri spoke. We have seen the human essence. It is unexpected. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Humans possess a rare combination of traits, the Zitheri continued. Extreme adaptability coupled with strong moral principles. Fierce independence balanced with deep capacity for cooperation. Technological creativity restrained by ethical considerations. The Zitheri turned to address the entire council. In our long history, few species have shown this particular balance. Most either lack adaptability or lack moral restraint. Humans possess both in measure. High Lord Vask pushed forward, but they are unpredictable. Their history is filled with conflict. They cannot be trusted with full council membership. All species have conflict in their past. The Zitheri replied calmly. What matters is the direction of their development. Humans have repeatedly chosen to improve their ethical frameworks even as their technology advances. This is precisely what the stagnant council needs. Before Vask could reply, Grant stepped forward with a data crystal in her hand. Honorable Council, before you make your final judgment, we have evidence you must see. The moderator hesitated, then nodded. Proceed. Grant inserted the crystal into a console. Above the central platform, images appeared. Secret communications between Aurelian commanders, plans for mining operations in human-claimed systems, and records of deliberate provocations. The Aurelians didn't encounter us by accident, Grant explained. They've been watching Earth for decades, waiting until we developed space travel. They deliberately provoked the conflict to gain control of resource-rich systems near Earth. As the evidence unfolded, more damning information appeared. Records showing similar tactics used against other emerging civilizations over thousands of years, not just by the Aurelians, but by several founding species. This information comes from multiple sources, Grant continued, including council members who have grown tired of the corruption at the highest levels. The chamber erupted into chaos. Many representatives shouted for order, while others demanded immediate reform. The founding species called for the evidence to be dismissed. In the midst of the uproar, Moore raised his hand and somehow the chamber quieted. "I didn't come here to destroy the Galactic Council," he said, his voice clear and steady. "I came to save my planet and my people. But now I see that the Council itself needs saving." He walked to the center of the chamber, looking up at the tiers of alien representatives. The Council was founded with noble purposes: to share knowledge, to solve conflicts peacefully, to help species grow and develop. But over time that vision has been corrupted. Moore gestured to the still visible evidence. The founding species have maintained their power by keeping newer members weak and divided. They've violated the very principles they claim to uphold. Hi. Lord Vask's scales had turned almost black with fury. "This is outrageous. Humans have no right to lecture us on principles. They are children in the galactic community." "Perhaps that's exactly why we can see what's wrong," Moore replied. "Sometimes it takes a child to point out when the Emperor has no clothes." A ripple of translator activity spread through the chamber as the Earth idiom was processed. Then, surprisingly, laughter began, first from a few mid-tier species, then spreading. Moore continued. "I propose not the destruction of the Council, but its transformation. A new structure that distributes power more equitably, that values the contribution of all members regardless of how long they've been part of the community." He outlined a vision of a council where species contributed based on their unique strengths and perspectives rather than a rigid hierarchy that preserved old power balances. "Each civilization has something valuable to offer," Moore said. "The ancient wisdom of the founding species is vital, but so is the fresh perspective of newcomers. Together, we can be stronger than we ever could be divided." As Moore finished speaking, silence fell over the chamber. Then, one by one, representatives began to indicate their support, some by standing, others by light signals or translated messages. The Zitheri moved forward again. "We find truth in the human's words. The Council has strayed from its original purpose. The human has not only passed the final trial but has revealed a path forward for all species." The moderator looked around the chamber, counting the signals of support. Even some of the founding species were cautiously indicating agreement. "It seems the will of the Council is clear," the moderator announced. "A committee will be formed to draft a new Council charter, with representatives from all tiers, including humanity." High Lord Vask stormed out of the chamber, followed by a few die-hard supporters, but most remained, already beginning discussions about what the new council might look like. Leora approached Moore, her silver eyes bright with emotion. "You have done something many of us thought impossible, Commander. You've broken the cycle of power that has controlled the council for millennia." "What happens now?" Grant asked. "Now the real work begins," Leora replied. "Creating a new system will not be easy. There will be resistance, maybe even conflict." "Admiral Reyes needs to know," Moore said. "The Aurelian fleet is already withdrawing," Leora said with a smile. "Word travels quickly. Without the support of the full council, Vask cannot risk open warfare." 1 year later, Ambassador Moore, formerly commander, stood in the reformed council chambers. The physical structure remained the same, but the atmosphere had fundamentally changed. Species that once had no voice now participated fully in galactic decisions. The former ruling species maintained their membership, but had lost their absolute authority. As Moore took his place in the new council, he reflected on humanity's unlikely journey from isolation to becoming the catalyst for galactic reform. Earth. Ships now traveled freely through council space, exchanging knowledge and culture with dozens of alien civilizations. Leora joined him at the observation window, where they could see the stars beyond the station. "The council has received disturbing reports from our deep space probes," she said. "There may be threats approaching from beyond the galaxy's edge, challenges that will require the united strength of all our species." Moore nodded. "Then it's good we're no longer fighting each other." He realized that humanity's greatest test was not overthrowing an unjust system, but helping to build and maintain a better one in its place. Earth had earned its position among the stars not through domination, but by recognizing injustice and having the courage to stand against it. "One human shattered the Galactic Council," Leora said softly, echoing a phrase that had become common among council species, "and in doing so made it stronger than ever before." Moore smiled. "Not one human," he corrected. "One humanity. That was always our strength. Not that we're perfect, but that we keep trying to be better. Together." As the new council session began, representatives from 218 species, now including Earth, gathered to face the future as equals at last.